You're listening to Inside Lebo, a podcast giving you an inside look at Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office.
On any given day at Mount Lebanon's Racket Center, the courts are full, the schedule is packed, and players of all ages are showing up, rain, snow, or sunshine. It's one of the community's most heavily used recreation facilities, and this spring it's getting even bigger. I'm Rachel Windsor, Mount Lebanon's Assistant Public Information Officer and the Senior Editor of Mount Lebanon Magazine.
And I'm Assistant Municipal Manager and Municipal Planner Ian McMeans. In this episode, brought to you by our sponsors at Trouvers Jewelry, we're talking racket sports, community engagement, and what's new this season at the Mount Lebanon Racket Center. Joining us today is Darin Rauso, the center's manager. So Darin, thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
So to start, for listeners that might not be familiar, can you give us an overview of the Mount Lebanon Racket Center and what it offers to our community?
Sure, yeah, definitely. So at the Racket Center, we currently have 13 hard-true clay tennis courts. We just added 6 pickleball hard courts, and we have 4 platform tennis courts. We also have a state-of-the-art hitting wall that was just installed last year, which is for racket sports only. The demand for racket sports, is certainly high in the Mount Lebanon area and Pittsburgh as a whole. People here love their tennis, their pickleball, paddle tennis. We have a great racket sports community. I think with our facility, with the sheer number of courts as well as the 3 sports in one location, that certainly meets the demand and gives the people option to play one or all 3 racket sports. In 2 hours you could play tennis, pickleball, platform, and use the hitting wall without ever having to move your car, which I think that's a huge draw for people and really unique to our specific facility.
So for those who aren't familiar, what's kind of the difference between platform versus regular tennis or pickleball? Yeah,
platform is more of a winter-based sport, so they play on a little bit of a smaller court inside of a cage. There's heaters that pump heat from underneath to melt the ice. Similar scoring, but they're allowed to play the ball. It's a different ball, a different paddle. They're allowed to play the ball off the cage. Really popular on the East Coast. I was kind of new to it coming to the facility, but really popular, great community for platform tennis here. We have a great association called the Mount Lebanon Platform Tennis Association, which we work with heavily, and a great platform hut building on the facility. So it's really fun. I played it for the first time a few weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. So I can see why there's all the hype.
So the ability to play year-round is definitely a huge draw for people. How would you say the indoor and outdoor courts work seasonally, and why is that flexibility so important for our residents?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing that we have the option for year-round tennis at the Racket Center, clay court play for that matter. It's really rare and hard to find indoor clay court options, so it's great that we offer that to the community. For our outdoor season, which runs basically beginning of May through mid-October, we have our 13 outdoor tennis courts. And then starting mid-October, we transition to our indoor season where we have 6 of our courts which are under a bubble, and that season runs through mid-April. Right now we're on the final stretch of our indoor season, currently getting prepared to take the bubbles down, which is scheduled for April 18th. It's important we provide year-round play because for tennis players, most part, don't just want to play seasonally. Once you get hooked on tennis, you kind of want to enjoy playing year-round for many reasons, exercise, fun, competitive reasons. So it's great our players can do that at our facility year-round without having to go elsewhere.
Great. So speaking of the kind of wide variety of players that you get coming through the Racket Center facility, what types of programs or opportunities exist for beginners to learn the various sports that we offer there versus more advanced or competitive players? Yeah,
definitely. So our head professional, Megan Foster, has done a great job revamping all of our program offerings for all skill levels and ages for our juniors and adults. She's added a lot of new offerings and expanded on a lot of our current offerings, which has been great. We have our session clinics, which run a certain number of weeks, based upon age for our juniors and level of play for our adults. For example, in the adult section, a beginner, which is more of a 2.5 to 3.0 rating, and more of an advanced player, which is in the 4.0 to 4.5 category. We offer clinics and lessons for all those abilities. We have a lot of adult program that are weekly, meaning the registration is new each week, so it gives you the flexibility to commit to just one class based upon your schedule. And these run just about each day of the week with clinic options, including cardio tennis, live ball tennis, fitness tennis options, and are categorized for beginners to advanced players. Megan, she offers private lessons as well. It could be just a one-on-one or your own small group where you get personalized instruction from her, which is really popular at the Racket Center. And all of these options can be found and registered for on our Racket Center website page on the rec website.
So have you noticed any changes in participation or interest in racket sports over the past few years here in Mount Lebanon?
Yeah, definitely. I think the demand, as I said, is very high. Regarding tennis, I think a lot of new players started during COVID. It was a socially distanced sport, and they continued with it, which is great. Reports say, it's the healthiest sport in the world. It can add 9 years to your life expectancy, lower risk of cardiovascular disease, boost aerobic capacity, improve mental health. I think all of those reasons are why the sport is growing each year. In regard to pickleball, fastest growing sport in the U.S. I was living in Seattle for a time, and pickleball was actually originated on Bainbridge Island, which is a short ferry ride from downtown Seattle. So I was in the thick of it. They had a huge pickleball population. You could see it everywhere. Now in the country, getting bigger and bigger. We know from Meadowcroft here in town and surrounding pickleball facilities in Pittsburgh that the demand is really high here, which is great. And same for platform tennis. Very popular on the East Coast, as I mentioned. Great paddle community here. Very nice courts. The new paddle hut. And working with the Mount Lebanon Platform Association, I know their demand is increasing as well.
Great. So we're going to take a quick break with a word from our sponsor, Trouvers Jewelry. And in the second half of the show, we'll dig a little bit more into pickleball, which, as you mentioned, is one of the fastest growing sports in America. And there's definitely been an increased demand for more here in Mount Lebanon, and we're going to talk about it.
Looking for that perfect piece of jewelry? At Trouvers Jewelry, you're not just a customer, you're part of the family. Locally owned by Mount Lebanon residents Rob and Kay Trouver, Trouvers has specialized in exquisite craftsmanship and custom jewelry design for over 30 years. Rob is an expert goldsmith, ensuring your jewelry is created with the utmost skill and care. Whether you're looking for something timeless or one of a kind, Trouvers delivers it all. Visit us at the corner of West Liberty and Piermont Avenue, or check us out online at trouvers.com. At Trouvers, it's personal.
And welcome back to Inside Lebo. We're continuing our conversation with Darin Rauso. Darin, one of the most anticipated updates this year is the addition of the pickleball courts opening this spring. So why was now the right time to bring pickleball to the Racket Center?
Yeah, I think the demand, as I mentioned before, nationwide, as well as what we've seen at Meadowcroft Park here locally, those courts are full all the time. So it was just time to add more courts to Mount Lebanon. Fit into our long-range plan of the Racket Center as a whole. Since coming on, I've been a big proponent of pickleball and bringing it to the Racket Center. I think it's good that pickleball and tennis can coexist together and kind of complement one another. So we're excited that it's here and can't wait to open them to the public soon.
So for listeners who may be new to the sport or unfamiliar, what is it about pickleball that's made it so popular across so many different age groups?
Yeah, I think for a few reasons. There's not as much of a learning curve to play the sport compared to tennis. People can pick up the sport relatively quickly. The scoring is more simplified, overall not as physically demanding. So I think, that appeals to all age groups, young to older, can just pick up a paddle and a ball and enjoy the sport right away. Also, I think the accessibility is very high with so many courts being built, and the social aspect of it that people really enjoy. You can fit 4 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court, so it's just more accessible. With more courts brings more people, and when you're playing, you're in a close relative proximity during play, which in turn just makes it naturally social.
So how many pickleball courts will be opening, and how will they fit into the existing layout and the daily operations of the center?
Yeah, so we have 6 pickleball courts now in total. Hard court, they've replaced our tennis courts 1 and 2 right there on Cedar Boulevard. So you can see them from the street, as most you've probably already seen. They'll operate similar to our tennis courts now in terms of reservations and programming. They have lights on the courts, so we'll be able to still use them for evening play. And technically, they'll be open year-round, weather permitting. If it's a dry, warm enough day, for example, in January, they'll be available for reservation. And just to be clear, there will not be a bubble over top of the pickleball court, so they'll just be outdoor year-round, but more accessible in compared to tennis for pickleball because it's more of a wiffle ball, so they don't get waterlogged like tennis balls do. So a lot of people can play year-round, even if it's a little bit damp out. And we've been getting a lot of questions at the Racket Center. Right now, they're just the black asphalt color. We'll be painting them a nice green and blue here as soon as the weather gets warm enough for the paint to be able to stick to the surface. So stay tuned on that. They will be a nice green and blue, and we're excited to get those painted.
Great. And when the courts open, what can residents expect in terms of programming? Will there be lessons, open play times, or leagues?
Yeah, as of now, it's all weather dependent. So once we see the weather taking a turn for the warmer, we'll open to the public and we'll be full steam ahead. We're putting together our programming schedule now, so we'll have the regular reservations as well as open play, in which people drop in, pay a fee, and you can get 40 people going during open play. The programming options will be similar to tennis. We'll have various clinics, private lesson opportunities. We'll do a lot in the sense of fun social events and mixers. So we're putting together that plan now.
Cool. And you mentioned earlier that pickleball is a very social sport. So how do you see these new courts adding to the overall sense of community at the Racket Center?
Yeah, I feel it's another great way for our community to socialize together while having fun, getting exercise, whether that's, making a reservation to play with friends or family, signing up for a drop-in and playing with people you haven't met before, being part of a clinic and improving your skills with others. Or even going upstairs on our deck of the Racket Center building, after playing and socializing with more players that you played with. All of that adds a sense of the community that I think Mount Lebanon really excels in.
Do you think that pickleball can attract new users who might not have previously played tennis or used the facilities?
Yeah, definitely. One of the reasons I'm excited, the courts are down on Cedar Boulevard. It's easily viewable from cars driving down the street, people walking their dogs or their kids, dropping your kids off at school. All will notice the courts there and allow general curiosity, especially when you see people out there playing. On the same note, players coming to the facility to play pickleball who've never been here before, which would naturally attract more pickleball, tennis, and platform players here, which would be a huge advantage. It could be, someone just walking down the sidewalk, see people playing, and they're like, hey, I can do that. And then fast forward 2 years later, they're avid pickleball and tennis players here and made a ton of friends through the sport, which would be really great.
So overall, from your perspective as the Racket Center manager, what excites you the most about the pickleball courts opening this spring?
Yeah, I think adding the fastest growing sport to our Racket Center is exciting. Getting more people to the Racket Center, seeing more people playing and having fun and getting exercise. I think that's what I'm most excited about, all the opportunities that we can also do with what we can offer in terms of socials and events and mixers and different tournament offerings. There's been a lot of discussion over the years to bring pickleball to this location, so we're happy it's here now.
So before we wrap up, what is your message to residents who are curious about pickleball or thinking about visiting the Racket Center for the first time?
Yeah, I would say just stop down anytime, give us a call. I'm there Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our head pro Megan's there throughout the week and weekend. We have a great cashier staff who's behind the desk ready to answer any questions you have. Come get involved, have fun. We'll have opportunities for all ages, abilities for all three sports. Very social, laid-back atmosphere at the Racket Center. There's no pressure. I think we're very welcoming. All the people in the racket community have been very hospitable to me, since I started 2 years ago. And I know they're that way for other players as well. So yeah, come join us and you won't regret it.
Great. Well, Darin, thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing what's ahead for the Racket Center. For more information on what's happening, check out mountlebanon.org/racket. That's RACKET. So thanks again, Darin, for joining us, and stay tuned for more from Mount Lebanon.
And that's going to be it for this edition of Inside Lebo, sponsored by Trouvers Jewelry, produced by Marcia Morgenstern, with music by Drew Mignot and graphics by Amy Robinson. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Inside Lebo, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office. Learn more about all things Lebo at mountlebanon.org or by following our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.